Eleanor, 67, a retired teacher. One Monday morning, severe chest pain. She calls 911. The ER admits her for 5 nights. Good care, she recovers. Friday, she goes home, then the bills arrive. A cardiologist she never authorized. A radiologist she never met. The hospital for only partial coverage because Medicare didn't cover days 3 through 5. When she calls, she learns the truth. She was never formally admitted as an inpatient. She was under observation status. Eleanor did everything right, went to an in-network hospital, asked about coverage, followed every instruction, but nobody told her the 5 things that could have protected her. My name is Dr. William Parker, and I've spent 18 years helping families navigate this exact situation. What I'm walking you through today are those 5 things, 5 specific situations that happen in hospitals every day. Not because the system is malicious, but because the rules are complicated and nobody explains them clearly. Stay with me through all 5. The last one, observation status, is the most financially consequential decision made during any hospital stay. If this channel is new to you, subscribe now. This is what we do here. Clear guidance for people over 65 who want to understand the system before the system makes decisions for them. Let's get into it. Before the 5 things, I need to give you one framework. I call it the protection gap. The space between what seniors believe their coverage includes and what it actually includes when specific situations happen. That gap is why Eleanor's story happens thousands of times every year. 3 things change about healthcare after 65. First, the rules get more complicated, not simpler. Medicare's rules around admissions, observation status, and rehabilitation are among the most complex in healthcare. What you don't know costs you money. Second, the documents you sign carry far more weight than you realize. Hospital paperwork often contains financial clauses that transfer costs to you. Signing without understanding legally locks you into bills Medicare might otherwise dispute. Third, hospitals operate inside a system designed around their financial interests, not yours. The classification assigned within your first 2 hours determines tens of thousands of dollars in coverage outcomes. Hospital staff aren't trying to hurt you. They're just not paid to protect your out-of-pocket costs. That's the protection gap. Think back to your last hospital stay. How fast did the paperwork move? How little time did you have to read anything? Most seniors sign what they're handed and assume that's right, but those documents often decide your financial responsibility. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Here's what's critical to understand. Financial problems after hospital stays are not inevitable. They're largely preventable. Federal law gives you rights you likely don't know about. That's what today is about, practical knowledge that puts you back in control. The 5 mistakes. Mistake 1. You go in for a planned procedure, you verify the hospital is in-network, you confirm your surgeon is in-network. 3 weeks later, a bill arrives for $3,800 from an anesthesiologist you met for 5 minutes and never agreed to pay out-of-network rates for. Why? Hospitals use contracted specialists who maintain their own separate network agreements. Just because the hospital is in-network does not mean everyone working there is. These providers can bill independently. What the law says, the No Surprises Act, went into effect January 2022. It protects you against many of these bills. For most planned procedures, out-of-network providers cannot charge you more than your in-network cost-sharing amount without explicit written consent in advance. What you can do, before any planned procedure, call the hospital in writing and ask for a complete list of every provider involved in your care and which are in your network. If any are out of network, ask for in-network alternatives. When asked to sign any document mentioning out-of-network billing or financial responsibility, read that clause carefully. Don't assume general consent forms don't carry financial weight. They often do. Receive a surprise bill? Contact your insurer within 30 days and request an itemized statement. Document everything. The earlier you dispute, the more options you have. The common mistake, assuming that if the hospital and primary doctor are in-network, everyone is. That costs seniors thousands every year. Mistake 2, pressure to leave before you're medically ready. David was 71. A fall broke 2 ribs and punctured a lung. After 3 days recovering, a hospital administrator said, "Your insurance approved your stay through this evening. Plan to be discharged tomorrow." David felt exhausted. His pain wasn't controlled, but he assumed insurance wouldn't discharge him if it wasn't safe. He was discharged. He fell again 3 days later. Medicare beneficiaries have a legal right called a QIO appeal. A quality improvement organization appeal. If you believe discharge is medically unsafe, you can appeal on the same day before leaving the hospital. Medicare pays for your continued stay while the appeal is reviewed. The hospital cannot discharge you during that period. Every Medicare patient must receive a written notice before discharge called the important message from Medicare. This explains your right to appeal. If you weren't given this notice, the hospital is out of compliance. Research shows approximately 1 in 5 Medicare patients is readmitted within 30 days of discharge. Premature discharge is a leading contributing factor. If you feel discharge is happening before you're medically ready, request a QIO appeal immediately. You don't need a lawyer, you don't need your doctor to agree. You call the QIO number on the important message from Medicare and request a review. That's it. The hospital cannot discharge you while the review happens. The common mistake, waiting until you're already home to raise the concern. Once you leave, appeal options narrow significantly. Act before discharge, not after. Mistake 3, hidden medication changes during your stay. Patricia was 69. 5 carefully selected medications kept her stable for years. When admitted for gallbladder surgery, the hospital substituted 2 of them with alternatives from their formulary without explaining why. After discharge, she had headaches she'd never had before. Energy dropped. She spent 2 months working with her doctor to understand what went wrong. Hospitals maintain their own formularies, approved drug lists. When your medication isn't on that list, they substitute alternatives without specific patient consent. This is standard practice, it's legal. But it creates real problems when substitutes behave differently, interact differently with other medications, or create challenges at discharge. Research shows medication discrepancies at hospital admission are a leading cause of adverse drug events, especially for older adults on 5 or more medications. Before any planned hospital stay, write out a complete medication list, every drug, dose, and frequency, including over-the-counter medications and supplements. Bring it with you. Give it to your care team and ask, will any of these be substituted during my stay? And how will we transition back at discharge? Call your primary care doctor before admission. Ask if they want to communicate with hospital pharmacy. When discharge happens, ask for a complete list of medication changes. Do not leave without understanding what's different and why. The common mistake, assuming the hospital is automatically talking to your doctor about medications. They're not. Coordination is your responsibility. Mistake 4, financial responsibility clauses in paperwork. Robert was 73. A stroke brought him to the ER. He signed paperwork quickly. Among the documents was a clause stating he was financially responsible for charges not covered by insurance, including coverage disputes. 18 months later, when his insurer denied part of his claim, the hospital pursued him for $14,000, 4 months of his retirement income. A 2021 Kaiser Family Foundation analysis found that more than half of American adults struggle affording healthcare costs. For seniors on fixed incomes, a single unexpected hospital bill is a crisis, not an inconvenience. Hospitals include financial responsibility clauses in admission documents. These clauses can make you liable for charges Medicare might otherwise dispute. If you can review admission paperwork, look for language about financial responsibility, assignment of benefits, and non-covered charges. You're allowed to ask questions before signing. You're allowed to annotate. If language concerns you, write, "I do not agree to this clause" next to it and initial it. This creates a documented record relevant in billing disputes later. Admitted through emergency and can't review documents in advance? Request copies once you're stable. You have the right to dispute charges from clauses you couldn't review. The common mistake, assuming that because you signed quickly under stress, you're locked in forever. You're often not. Many disputes resolve after the fact with documentation and persistence. Act soon after you realize there's a problem. Mistake 5, observation status versus inpatient admission. This is the most misunderstood and most financially consequential classification in Medicare. Margaret was 70. Severe dehydration and infection landed her in the hospital. She needed IV fluids, antibiotics, monitoring. She spent 4 days in a hospital bed. To Margaret, she was clearly admitted. On discharge, a social worker mentioned she was under observation status rather than formally admitted as an inpatient. Margaret didn't understand what that meant. The bills told her, when you arrive at a hospital and a doctor orders you to stay, you assume you're admitted as an inpatient. In a significant number of cases, you're not. You're under observation status. Observation status means you're technically an outpatient receiving extended monitoring, even if you occupy a hospital bed for multiple days. The practical difference is staggering. Under Medicare Part A, inpatient admissions cover your hospital stay and make you eligible for post-acute rehabilitation at a skilled nursing facility, provided you meet the 3-day inpatient stay requirement. After serious illness or injury, many seniors need rehabilitation before going home. Under observation status, none of that applies. Your hospital stay may be billed under Medicare Part B at higher out-of-pocket cost. And you're not eligible for covered skilled nursing facility care, not after 3 days, not after 5 days, not at all, regardless of how much you need it. The U.S. Government Accountability Office found the number of Medicare beneficiaries placed under observation status for more than 48 hours increased 96% between 2006 and 2014. Many were unaware until they received the bill. The financial consequences were severe. Some patients faced skilled nursing facility costs of $500 plus per day that Medicare wouldn't cover. That's $3,500 per week. For someone on a fixed income, that's impossible. The Notice Act requires hospitals to notify Medicare beneficiaries in writing within 36 hours if they're under observation status, rather than inpatient admission. That notification is called the Medicare Outpatient Observation Notice, or MON. You're entitled to receive it. If you don't, ask. Within the first 24 hours of any hospital stay, ask your nurse or care coordinator, am I formally admitted as an inpatient or am I under observation status? Write down the answer. Write down who gave it to you, date it. If you're under observation status and believe your condition warrants inpatient admission, you or your physician can request a status review. Your doctor's clinical judgment carries significant weight. If you're told inpatient admission requires authorization, ask who's responsible for pursuing it and what the timeline is. Don't assume someone else is handling it. Instead of waiting until discharge to find out, ask on arrival. Ask again after 24 hours. Many people successfully change their classification from observation to inpatient by asking the right questions. The common mistake: assuming that if the hospital kept you for 3 days, Medicare will count those days towards skilled nursing facility eligibility. That assumption has cost seniors and families hundreds of thousands of dollars in uncovered rehabilitation costs. The question costs nothing to ask. The answer changes everything. Before I wrap up, I'm leaving you with something practical. I call it the Hospital Admission Safety Protocol. 5 questions. Write them down. Put them in your phone. Give this to whoever is most likely to be with you in a hospital setting. Question 1. Am I being formally admitted as an inpatient or am I under observation status? Question 2. Can you give me a complete list of every provider involved in my care and which are in my insurance network? Question 3. Will any of my current medications be changed or substituted during this stay? And can my own physician be consulted before changes? Question 4. What are my rights if I believe I'm being discharged before I'm medically ready? Question 5. Is there anything in the paperwork I'm being asked to sign that could make me financially responsible for charges my insurance might not cover? Any competent hospital social worker, patient advocate, or physician will welcome these questions. Now here's your action step, and I'm making this specific because vague intentions don't translate into protection. This week, not in 30 days, this week, create a hospital readiness file. Takes about 15 minutes. Write down every medication you take, name, dose, frequency. Include over-the-counter medications and supplements. Add your primary care physician's name and direct phone number. Add one family member or trusted friend who can advocate if you can't. Write down your insurance information, Medicare number, supplemental policy details. Write down these 5 questions. Put that document somewhere you can grab it quickly. Tell your advocate where it is. Keep a copy in your car. Email a copy to yourself. That file is your protection, not because something bad will happen, but because people who navigate hospital encounters most successfully are almost always the ones who were prepared before they needed to be. Check your file in 30 days. Update anything that changed. I want to close with something I think about often. There is a difference between a healthcare system designed to treat illness and a healthcare system designed to protect the person experiencing that illness. After 65, navigating both requires more knowledge than most people are ever given. The 5 mistakes we covered today result from a system never designed with patient financial protection as its primary concern. Hospital staff aren't trying to hurt you. The system's incentives are structured around efficiency and revenue, not protection. The best patient advocates I've worked with are almost never the most aggressive or difficult. They're the most prepared. They ask calm, specific questions. They write things down. They know their rights before they need them. That's what protects you, and now that's what you have. You know what observation status is and why it matters. You know what the No Surprises Act protects you from. You know you have the right to appeal discharge. You know to read paperwork before signing. You know to bring your medication list every time. You know to ask who the providers are and whether they're in your network. That kind of preparation makes a real measurable difference. You are not a passive participant in your own healthcare. You are a participant with rights, and today you know what they are. If this gave you something useful, if it answered a question or clarified something you weren't sure about, subscribe. That's what this channel is built for. Calm, real, practical guidance for adults over 65 who want to understand the system before the system makes decisions for them. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.